first topic today that we want to cover is updates on the HAARP story, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which many people are familiar with. This project initially was a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy to build large radio transmitters here in Alaska. These transmitters would occupy a huge area. Initially it was 48 antennae in the array. These are antennas that are 72 feet tall, have a cross diapole, so across the top you'll see this type of a shape. These are about 70 feet across. There's 48 in the array. Eventually, at the end of this coming summer of 2005, we'll be seeing 180 antennae in the array, and eventually the full array will be 360 antennae. The idea between these radio frequency generators is to focus radio frequency energy in a much different way than most of us think about radio frequency energy coming off of an antenna, if we think of it at all. But when you think about it, think about the energy looking like a funnel, and the narrow end of that funnel at the antenna itself, and then spreading out or becoming less concentrated, less dense, the further you get away from the broadcast antenna itself. This is why radio and TV, the further you get away from the antennas themselves, the weaker the signal, because it spreads out. The energy becomes very, very less, significantly less concentrated over distance. With the HAARP array, the way this works is each antenna is fired in a unique sequence that creates sort of a corkscrewing motion called cyclotron resonance, where the energy is actually forced into a relatively small area and then concentrated many miles above the Earth's surface. In this case, the intent is to activate an area called the ionosphere that's about 30 miles above the Earth's surface, extending several hundred miles out from there. So the military in the mid-90s built what's called a developmental prototype here in Alaska to test a number of weapons applications. And I'll just go through those quickly just for review for those that are not familiar with the subject. Essentially what the Navy and Air Force wanted to do initially was look at over-the-horizon radar effects. By being able to use two arrays, two antenna fields, one based just north of Fairbanks in the Poker Flats rocket range area, they're able to create almost a mirror-like effect where they send the energy up to the ionosphere, this very high layer. They create what is called a cold plasma or plasma layer of energy for those cruise missile objects, so things coming in at very low elevations. So it can catch the very low and the very high elevations, and can also catch them all the way in. Old over-the-horizon radar technology would distort the image as it became closer and closer to the actual extremely low frequency signal, a very long wavelength that efficiently passes through the Earth and that can be used for a number of things, including Earth-penetrating tomography, the idea of looking into the Earth, or in plain language, it would be like, by comparison, X-raying the Earth, or looking into the Earth for underground mineral layers, underground shelters, nuclear facilities, and the like. It can also be used for communicating with submarines, because submarines, when they're at depth, you cannot communicate with them with short wavelengths like Muxie, that you could actually distinguish not just the layers or the strata of the ground as you went down, but you could also determine where oil and gas was located, and even the grade of oil in the ground based upon the readings that came back from these very, very low energy signals. Brooks' concern was much broader in terms of what could be triggered with earth-penetrating tomography. And one of the things that he noted was the effect of resonance, this idea of sending energy in, it harmonizes in a way that causes the energy actually to be more than the sum of the total. You know, it's like the old World War I stories where the armies were marching across wooden bridges in Europe, and some hours after they had marched across, the bridges would just collapse. It was the rhythmic beat of the march across that bridge that set up